I'm Rob Westervelt, editor of IHS Chemical Week, welcoming you to the 2017 IHS Market World Petrochemical Conference. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Nadim Qureshi, Managing Director with WL Ross. Nadim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Obviously, WL Ross has a long history, but a relatively new entrant into the sector with your first investment being Nexeo. Walk me through that investment and how it's performing.
Yeah, Nexeo, the firm's first foray into chemicals, but if you look at the entire value chain from upstream all the way to downstream, the firm has had a long history in oil and upstream assets as well as tankers and transportation or shipping. Nexeo was an interesting investment. We had a vehicle that is a public vehicle. It was a special purpose acquisition vehicle that we had, and we figured that an investment in chemicals was probably one of the better areas for the vehicle. The thesis going into Nexeo was focused mainly on really three things. One is the industry itself is in a mode of continuous outsourcing, and the trend for outsourcing is growing. Among the most industries, it's at the lowest level at this point. 10% of the products are outsourced, and I think that ought to grow. So that was really the basic fundamental thesis for the investment. The second thing, the metrics and the fundamentals of the business itself were sound. And we felt there was an opportunity to actually improve that even further. So that was the second level thesis. And the third thesis was the management itself. It is fairly difficult to find good management in these types of businesses. We were fortunate enough to have the right team from CEO level all the way down to the junior management team. So those are really the three main reasons. You combine that with our expertise in managing complex assets, because this is a complex business, distribution in general is, we felt it was a good place to invest. Business is doing extremely well right now, and we just made an acquisition in Mexico where we acquired a specialty chemical distributor, and that announcement came out a few weeks ago. Okay.
And more broadly, beyond distribution, what's WL Ross's approach in chemicals? What are the types of assets you look for?
Yeah, if we look at the chemical industry, we actually divide it into four main sectors. You've got the upstream sector, which is closest to the wellhead. You've got all the way the downstream specialty sectors. You've got places in the middle that tend to be more diversified, or intermediates as we define them. And then you have the services businesses. So if I take Nexeo, I fit it in that services sector. Our approach is that if you look at the specialty space, that's highly competitive. A lot of the private equity firms are playing in that. Valuations are through the roof. So we're opportunistic in that space, but we tend not to play in that area, tend not to focus in that space. Our main focus is more upstream, closer to the wellhead, closer to the cracker. We feel with all the investment that is coming on stream, there will be lots of complex carve-outs that will be coming out of major players, and that's really where we're focusing right now. By nature and by design, the firm's DNA focuses more on dislocated assets. Yep. We seek complexity, and I think if you look at the cycle over the next 2 years and the level of investment that'll take place, we feel some of the dislocation will be closer to the wellhead, and a lot of the assets will be coming out, will fit the style that we have at the firm. Okay.
Is there a concern about valuations and where they are, and how tough does that make?
I think there's definitely a concern on this more specialty side. Yep. If you look at some of the recent transactions, the valuations have been more than 12 times. And that's driven, one, by the amount of capital that is sitting on the sideline in private equity, and two, the level of M&A within the strategics. Yep. And that's been at record high recently. And so there is concern there. On the upstream side, there is also concern on valuation, but not as much as on the specialty side. The assets, as you get closer to the cracker or the wellhead, tend to be large, complex, difficult to manage. It's not easy to find the right management teams. And I think that seems to be a little better space for us at this point. But valuations are definitely high on the specialty side.
Great. Nadim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you.